Hello, welcome to this informational webinar on the Virtual Learning Collaborative on Workforce Recruitment and Retention. This collaborative focuses on behavioral health and focuses on workforce recruitment and retention both during the pandemic and beyond. What I'd like to do during this webinar is orient you to the collaborative and explain a little bit about the application process. The collaborative is sponsored by the Central East Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, which funds this initiative. The Mental Health Technology Transfer Center is funded itself by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. The DC Department of Behavioral Health is a co-sponsor for this collaborative, and the collaborative was designed and is offered by the Annapolis Coalition on the Behavioral Health Workforce. My name is Michael Hoge. I'm a professor of psychiatry at the Yale School of Medicine and a senior science and policy advisor for the Annapolis Coalition. And I will be one of the collaborative leaders. I'll be joined by Dr. Manny Paris, who is an associate professor of psychiatry at Yale and an expert in adapting evidence behavioral health treatments for culturally diverse populations. Recruitment in behavioral health has been a major problem for decades. Agencies have the common experience of having a substantial number of vacancies amongst their workforce and a great deal of difficulty finding qualified candidates for those open positions. Simultaneously, it has been said that we use a fishing technique known as catch and release as our basic principle for retention in behavioral health, meaning that we invest a lot of time and energy in hiring individuals only to find them sort of very quickly leaving us. Recruitment and retention has major impact on our organizations. It is costly for them. It produces a heavy burden on the remaining employees and can be quite negative in terms of its impact on morale. And it results in decreased access and quality of care for patients when our positions go unfilled and we're unable to find qualified candidates. On top of all that, we have the recent issues related to the pandemic, which has created major challenges in terms of finding and keeping our workforce. So we have these special issues that we have to deal with, in addition to the long-standing recruitment and retention problems. The Learning Collaborative, in brief, is an all virtual, all remote sort of experience. There will be no in-person meetings. Organizations that are selected to participate will each create a change management team comprised of 3 individuals. Those individuals will participate in a series of 3 educational and work sessions, and they will begin in that process to develop their recruitment and retention plan and will go on to implement that plan for their agency. And along the way, they will receive ongoing technical assistance from me and from Dr. Paris over the life of this project, which will run through next June. To be eligible, an agency must be a community behavioral health organization serving clients in the District of Columbia, and the organization must be in good standing with district agencies, district public agencies, and with the Federal Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services. The collaborative is really designed for community behavioral health organizations, so it is not specifically appropriate for hospitals and health systems. The other criteria is that if your agency is involved in a competing major change initiative, that would make it difficult for you to participate. We'll ask you to provide some information about that competing initiative and whether you think you would have the bandwidth as an organization to focus on this recruitment and retention initiative as well. The focus on this collaborative is on 3 things. We will focus specifically on the COVID-related recruitment and retention challenges and strategies. We will focus on the recruitment and retention challenges that you had before COVID came along and the ones that you're likely to face after COVID goes away. And we will help you develop sustainability strategies such that your organization will be able to maintain an ongoing focus and ongoing interventions on recruitment and retention after the collaborative ends. Layered on top of all this will be a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion as we look at the various challenges and the various strategies that you can implement regarding recruitment and retention. In terms of our selection criteria, when we look at applications, we look to make sure that the application is complete, that the agency meets eligibility criteria, that the proposed team members for the 3-person team are appropriate, that you have behavioral health recruitment and retention needs that participation in the collaborative could help address, and that there's evidence of a commitment and your organization's capacity to actively participate in this initiative. The change management teams, as I indicated, have 3 members. Optimally, we like to see your most senior HR staff member who's responsible for behavioral health as a member of the team, your most senior behavioral health services manager, and then one other individual that you think would best fit and best be able to sort of contribute to the change management team. If you submit an application and don't select particularly the senior HR and senior behavioral health services manager to participate, we ask you to explain the rationale for that decision, noting that organization circumstances and the nature of who's in your organization may suggest an alternative approach. We will expect that the individuals listed in your application will participate in the various meetings and events, the dates for which are published in the request for application. So please check and make sure that they are available to participate in those meetings. There's no cost to participate. This is free of charge to agencies. I would like to highlight, however, that every member of your 3-person team needs to have a webcam optimally, or alternatively a smartphone so that they can participate in the meetings with video. So video participation in the various meetings is required. In terms of some more detail about the Learning Collaborative process, we will be selecting up to 10 organizations to participate in the collaborative. Immediately after being selected, you would receive a link to an orientation webinar with instructions about how to prepare for the upcoming collaborative meetings. Those preparations involve beginning to pull together the data that you have on recruitment and retention in your organization, and beginning to talk within your team and with others in the organization to identify what your recruitment and retention priorities are and what your goals for participating in this process might be. There are 3 education and work sessions. These are 2.5 hours in length, where you'll partly be working with a larger group and partly in a breakout with your own team working on your own plan. These occur on dates in November that are published in the request for applications. You'll start to develop your plan during those meetings, and then we'll continue that planning after those sessions and eventually move on to implementing your plan. You will receive feedback on your draft plan and technical assistance on your plans and your activities throughout the course of the collaborative. We'll ask you to submit brief monthly updates, reports on your progress. And over the course of the collaborative, there will be 3 meetings, virtual meetings in which all agencies and all teams from all agencies participate, each sharing with other agencies the goals that you've selected, the strategies that you're using, the progress that you're making, any obstacles that you're encountering, and your efforts to build sustainability structures that will help you maintain a focus on recruitment and retention after the collaborative ends. You'll receive an education during the collaborative about how to identify recruitment and retention challenges and to frame specific recruitment and retention goals. We will educate you around 30 plus best practices in recruitment and retention. We'll share with you work from other organizations that have identified COVID-related workforce challenges and the strategies that they've used to address recruitment and retention during the pandemic. We'll have guidance for you on how to measure recruitment and retention. We have an elegant template for you to use to help build your recruitment and retention plan. We will give you advice on how to manage the process of change within your organizations such that your effort to address recruitment and retention is successful. And we have strategies to share with you about how to sustain your plans and change over time. In addition to the feedback that Manny and I will give you around your plans, you will also learn a lot from your peers, the other change management team members from other agencies that will participate in this process. In terms of our framework for thinking about these efforts, we think of the concept of continuous workforce improvement, which is that recruitment and retention or other workforce problems are not something that you just fix in a certain point in time. They require an ongoing effort, much the way we think of continuous quality improvement. In this work, we think of continuous workforce improvement. So what then is the time horizon for change related to recruitment and retention if you participate in this project? We'll encourage you to focus on some very short-term goals and strategies that you can implement fairly quickly and may begin to impact on your recruitment and retention success. There'll be other things that you focus on that take longer to implement and longer for you to see the effects. We will encourage you to stick with this focus on recruitment and retention, and then you will see the impact of that unfold in your organization over time. In terms of the requirements to participate in this process, there are some requirements for the senior leader in your organization. That person is responsible for the commitment of your organization to participate and ultimate responsibility for the follow-through in this process. We ask that that individual submit a letter to accompany the application, conveying the commitment of the organization to actively participate. The senior leader must appoint the team members. We ask that they review the orientation webinar when it's released, to have specific input into the recruitment and retention goals that the team will focus on, and to give review and approval of the recruitment and retention plan. And then along the way to support the team and the plan as it is implemented. In terms of the change management team, they are also asked to review the orientation webinar, to pull together data and information about the organization's challenges and goals before the education sessions, then to participate in those education and work sessions, and to follow through on developing, securing approval of, and implementing the recruitment and retention plan. It is the small teams that submit the monthly reports, participate in the 1-hour technical assistance calls that happen about every 6 weeks, and to attend the 3 virtual meetings, and then to complete a final report and satisfaction survey at the end of the process. The application itself is available online at this web address, AnnapolisCoalition.org/collaborative. It's a fairly simple application in which we ask for contact information related to your agency. There's 5 simple yes/no eligibility questions. The bulk of the application is your response to 5 narrative questions. We ask only for a paragraph or 2 on each. An overview of your organization, a statement about the recruitment and retention challenges you have, what you've tried to address these, and any obstacles that you see in participating in this collaborative. We then ask you to identify the members of the change management team that would represent you, and to obtain and attach a letter from your CEO or executive director. The application deadline is October 1st at 5 p.m. We hold very tightly to that deadline. So please make every effort to submit your application by that time, should you choose to do so. When you have your application completed and you have your letter, we ask you to scan those together as one document, to submit that electronically by email. You will receive a confirmation within 48 working hours, 2 working days, that we have received your application. And if you don't, we ask you to follow up with me by email. Only organizations that received a confirming email that we have your application will be considered in this process. So please make sure and close that loop and make sure you either received an email or have followed up to obtain such a confirmation. So that's it. I thank you for listening, and I hope I've answered most of the questions you might have. If you have other questions, please feel free to email me at michael.hoge, it's H-O-G-E, @yale.edu, and I will be happy to respond. Remember the deadline, October 1st, 5 p.m. I hope you'll consider joining us. Thank you so much.